One. Hey, how's it going? This is the 114th episode of the Seacoast Bev Lab podcast, SBL podcast. Tonight, I am your guest host, Sean Jansen from twobeerguys.com. And tonight I am drinking a new beer from Shed Brewery, if you can see that. It's actually called Profanity Ale. It is a dark, hoppy beer. Dark in color, but a little bit lighter in body. It's got some rich chocolate flavors to it, and it's quite delicious. And with me tonight on the show is Carla. How's it going, Carla?
Hi, everybody. Carla here, known online as the Beer Babe. I am drinking an all-day IPA from Founders. Just picked up the 15-pack of cans. So kicking it back and trying to check it out to make sure that summer's on its way. We're almost there, almost to the solstice. Good, picking up some session beer for that.
Wonderful. So, Carla, was there anything? Did you have anything beer related come up last week at all?
Yeah, actually, last weekend I have been, as you guys know, if you have been listening to the show, I have been on a quest to try to visit all of Maine's breweries. At some point, in my career, I figured, come on, I gotta go get them all. So last weekend, actually spent some time with Chad, who writes the blog If My Coaster Could Talk, up in the Bangor area of Maine. So that's about 2 hours north of Portland. And it's a little bit of a booming beer scene. So I got to have a really cool tour of a whole bunch of breweries up there. I think I hit 5 in total. I went to Orono Brewing Company, Black Bear Microbrew, Squaretail Brewing Company in Amherst, the Penobscot Bay Brewery in Winterport, and Gagan Brothers, their new facility. So I'll just quickly give a little recap, but it was a fantastic trip. And Portland gets all the attention in Maine as far as the beer boom goes, but I think Bangor deserves a little attention too. Orono Brewing Company made some really nice hoppy stuff, but they had a lineup at their space, which is right in downtown Bangor, or downtown Orono rather. They had a lot of stuff, everything from a wit beer to some porters, some stuff on nitro also pouring, which is not super common. And they were fantastic. Went over to the Black Bear Microbrew, which is really popular with the University of Maine students up at Orono. And then
had you had any of the any beers from any of these breweries beforehand? Like any of these production that you can get bottles closer to home?
I've had Black Bear Microbrew on tap before in Lewiston and a few other places outside of Portland. But a lot of these guys are small enough to stay close by. So, for example, Orono Brewing Company is tap and growler, keg and growler only. Squaretail, who's out in Amherst, they're very small. And again, they're growler fills and basically tap only. But Gagan Brothers Brewing Company, I had been to before. They have a brew pub in the Bangor area that has like good foods, like a kind of an Irish pub thing. But they have a new production facility where they're going to have bottled beer. So they're going to be putting that bottled beer in the market, mostly in that northern part of Maine. Not a lot of it coming down my way. So you still really kind of have to go up there to get a try of a lot of these beers. But if you're ever in the area, there's an airport up there, there's a college and stuff. So there's reasons to go. They do have a pretty wild and pretty growing scene up there.
Now, from the Portland area, how far would you say estimate that would be for anyone to go visit? Like, how far of a ride was it?
It's about a 2-hour drive. It depends on which way you go, because there's kind of like the back roads ways where if you want to go along the mid coast and stuff, it takes a little bit longer. But if you want to go up 95, which frankly is really boring, it's about 2 hours. So from where I live in Topsom, it was about an hour and a half to get up there. So I actually stayed overnight on Saturday night and then took my time coming back on Sunday. But they also have, they have concert venues and stuff up there too. So there's buses that go in between. There's a decently traveled, but it is a bit of a hike from Portland proper.
Yeah, it must have been pretty tired after going to visit 5 breweries in a day.
Yeah, yeah. So I did 4 in one day, and then I did Gagan the next day. But even so, it was still, that's a lot to fit in. I didn't even get them all. There's one Friar's Bakehouse. It basically is a monastery that does has a bakery and has a brewing component too. I didn't get a chance to go visit those guys, but I got almost everybody else in the area, which is cool. And there's also a Sea Dog brew pub up there that I've been before. So
I think Bangor also has a like a Novare-esque.
Yes, they have they have a very good craft beer bar called Nocturnum, which if I wasn't so flipping tired on Saturday night, I probably would have stopped in there too because they're good people. And it's very similar, like you said, to Novare. They've got some great stuff on tap. They also do a lot of cool tap takeovers and things. So that is definitely a place to hit up if you guys go up there. But I gotta say, being in Southern Maine, gives me a little bit of a bias as to what's going on, within a 50-mile radius of me. But there's a lot booming up there. Like Orono Brewing Company and Squaretail have opened in the last year. And then Gagan's expansion has literally just taken place a couple months ago. So there's a lot of booming, and there's a lot more in planning in that area as well. So I think it's in general just underserved for craft beer and plenty of room to grow.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So with that, so you added 5 more. And you've been keeping track of your list.
Yeah, I've got 15 left.
15 left.
Yeah.
And, is there like an area that you see that you can hit another 5 spot like in?
Well, the next one that's kind of got a few that are centralized is kind of down East Maine. So near the Bar Harbor area, there's like Atlantic and a couple up there. There's like a group of 3 or 4 depending on how I hit it. And then a lot of the other ones are just kind of out there.
You have to like pick day trips.
There's one a couple hours north in an area that they just call the Forks, and that's just one by itself, like way up on the top. There's another one in an area called Lubec, which is literally 4 hours driving from me, going towards the coast, kind of up. It's basically you can throw things at Canada from there. But I do have the pair of breweries that are in the Wells and Gunkwit area. I still haven't visited Hidden Cove, and then there's the new one that just opened, Theory Brewing. As soon as they get their tasting room all set, I'll probably go swing down and grab those guys too. But a lot of them are turning into, I've done the road trips that I can hit a few at a time, and now I'm kind of picking them off a little bit one by one. So it'll be a little bit less quick progress after this, I think.
That's awesome. Soon you'll actually have like the picture of each brewery in your head for when you go there, or even online for that matter.
Yeah, and that's a big reason why I wanted to do that, so that if people ask me, oh hey, I'm thinking about visiting such and such, I can actually give them an idea of what it's like, and make some more contacts and that type of thing. So it's been really educational, and just it's also taught me a lot about just seeing the rest of Maine. It's really easy to stay within that little hour radius of Portland, when there's so much more of this state. It's a lot bigger than people think.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I want to give a shout out to anyone, either if you're watching us live right now, or actually the folks listening to the chat room. We have a couple folks in there. Patrick, along with Grey Road Ales, who's a frequent viewer and participator in the program, along with Hoppy Mike. Welcome. For some of the beers that folks are drinking right now, there is Hoppy Mike's drinking a Peak Organic Nut Brown. Some night shift action going on.
Oh, night shift.
Yes, so some delicious beers being drank. And as we go along, if anyone has any questions, you can join us in the chat room and kind of give us a shout out and ask a question, or you could give Carla a tweet on Twitter and get right to us. But I mean, just starting right off, there was some big Massachusetts news over the weekend that we want to kind of start off with, where a local Massachusetts brewery has quickly found themselves displaced in the Boston area. And I'll kind of read off the headline. 1.3 billion Wynn Casino project displaces Boston area brewery. Idle Hands Craft Ales, a small Boston area microbrew that got its start on a 1.5 barrel nano system brewing in 2011, announces has been forced to vacate its facility in Everett, Mass. Idle Hands' current space sits just blocks from the proposed site of the new $1.3 billion Wynn Everett Resort and Casino in order to make room for the construction access road. Not the construction, but the construction access road.
It's just
Idle
hard,
Hands
right? You know, it's
received.
not like, oh, hey, by the way, you're situated right where we're going to have the grand ballroom, but we need to make way for you for a dirt road that's going to let the trucks get to where they need to be. You know, that just sucks.
Exactly. And by the way, today is like June 15th, and you got to be out by the 30th.
Yeah, which is also not okay.
Yeah, it's not okay. So did you get a chance at all to see this article of or read up a little bit about it?
Yeah, and what I did like about it is that, you know, they kind of express, you know, basically they have some quotes from actually like their press release from Idle Hands of what's actually going on, and you know, it says things like, you know, we're aggressively pursuing a new location. We're saddened that it's happening so quickly, but we see the change as a minor setback that forces us to pursue the next chapter sooner. So I'm happy with their optimism, but I also really like that they decided to create on their own webpage a frequently asked questions, and there's a link to the FAQs, which is really nice because I'm sure they're going to get a ton of questions, and it's a really easy way to do that. And it's kind of you know, the first question on there is, does that mean the end for, you know, Idle Hands? And, you know, and they go, nope, you know, we hope not, you know, and then explain a little bit more. So it's just a really nice way to address something like that, where you know that everybody's going to have the same questions over and over again. And, but it's, I mean, it's hard to see that. It's hard to, you know, get such momentum and then kind of have to have, you know, just up and change, up and move, up and hurriedly move is tough.
So just for the, I mean, for everyone that's outside of New England, when Idle Hands opened up, they were one of a few people around the same time that opened up as being a Belgian-style specialty ale brewery, very small craft. It's a husband and wife brewing operation, Chris and Grace, and I can't say the last name. I'm just gonna butcher it, Takat or whatever. But they started their brewery. I think actually another brewery started off with a Belgian style brewery at the same time in the Boston area, which was kind of unique. And over the time that they've actually grown, and they joined with the Lowell brewery called Enlightenment, brought Enlightenment brands into their location. And the brewer, formerly of Enlightenment, actually became the head brewer of both Enlightenment and Idle Hands in their Everett location. Yeah. They were, even before the issue of the casino and the displacement came up, they were actually looking for a new location there. They're possibly or even close to being under contract with a new location, but they can't actually announce a location because they don't have a finally signed contract to be able to do so. Yeah. And if you're an Idle Hands follower, or even if someone that would like to then even somebody that's not familiar with Idle Hands, a lot of their beers were barrel aged or and bottled and specialty stuff that was sold in a small radius, either at the brewery or a small number of accounts in the Massachusetts area where draft is limited. Mm-hmm. Some of the things that I took away from the FAQ, which was very interesting, was that they're going to be moving temporarily their fermentation equipment from the Everett location to the Night Shift Brewery. And if you've been to the Night Shift Brewery, they have this fantabulous, amazingly large space, and that they can kind of roll in a friend's fermenter, brew on the Night Shift system, and basically ferment their beers in the same facility, which I thought was really a cool idea. But to be able to do that, they're going to kind of divert from their everyday beers and make some special interim beers that are going to be different style, different flavor beers. And those beers that come out will only be draft only. Mm-hmm. Any of their bottled product they kind of knew that they were going to be moving, so they did have plans to kind of build up stock to be able to have bottles for quite some time. But the move is coming earlier than they realized. So they
Right.
do have a couple bottles that a couple styles that were going to be coming out that are being barrel aged, and so they'll be moving their barrels of beer over to be able to bottle them when actually the product is ready to be bottled. The other thing that I found also interesting was that they mentioned for what's going to actually happen to an enlightenment in the time period, and the brewer from an enlightenment is actually going to go on basically a sabbatical, and get some little education in this period of time, and then come back and be rip roaring ready to go.
Broad, right?
Yeah, so Ben's going to go overseas
Denmark,
to a brewery in Denmark.
which is pretty cool. So
Yeah.
maybe we'll come back there with some, ideas and new education. That'll be,
Yeah.
lemons out of
No, I
lemon,
mean,
lemonade out of lemons, right?
taking an opportunity and making it taking one step further to find the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, I guess.
Yep. Well, I wish them the best of luck. I met Chris like when he was in planning for that brewery. Randomly, we were at an event at Lord Hobo, I think, down in Boston, and I don't remember why I was there, but it was also the first time I ever met Norm. So it was the same thing. I think it was one of the Lost in the Beer Aisle meetups, way back in the day. So I don't know what year they opened Idle Hands, but I remember him showing me the business card with the logo, and I'm thinking that logo is really cool. If you haven't seen the logo, it's basically hands that are doing this, but the void in between the hands is like a goblet shape, so it looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I met him way back, and wish him the best of luck. So I'm sure I'm hoping that they'll be able to survive this, and it'll all work out in the end. So our thoughts are with you guys, definitely. But and on the podcast, if we hear more news on how this is going, obviously we will share that with you guys.
Interestingly enough, I reached out to Chris and Grace this morning, and I invited them on the show. And unfortunately, as you would expect, that there's so much things that are going on that they decided that they weren't able to join us tonight. But it would have been great to hear exactly from Chris to hear how the situation came about. And I'm sure he had his lease, right?
Yeah.
So the landlord had to break the lease, or maybe the lease was on its way up and it wasn't going to be renewed. But either way, I mean, it's not easy to move brewing equipment.
No, and there's
a lot of costs, and
not with a short time frame like that either. These are things that take logistical planning, really, a really long time to kind of, work out all the parts and get everything in line. So it's a challenge.
And plus, you then have to make sure that there's no backlog at the federal level for the TTB to get approval in your new space or however your license is being transferred over. So it really, I mean, I'm hoping that they're getting some sleep, but I'm sure they're not at this point.
Yeah. That is very tough. So we'll keep you all posted, and we'll kind of see what happens. And if we can get Chris on, that'll be really cool. Maybe a little bit down the line once things are settled, ask him how it's going brewing at Night Shift. That'll be fun. So we have a couple of other things we wanted to talk about. I'll kind of transition over to another one. So we, as we're out and about, we kind of check out other things that we've heard of, affecting the beer world. And there is a company that is called Drizly, Drizly, that is actually a technological breakthrough that basically is going to try to change the way that some consumers buy beer. So I don't know if you want to break into that a little bit to kind of start that one off, or I can read.
Sure.
Yeah.
So as for the fancy computer tech folks, it's an app, and basically Drizly wants to be a service that provides home delivery of alcohol beverages, whether it's beer, wine, liquor, or whatnot, to be able to go to your app, to go on an app and say, I'm at this address, deliver me a handle of Captain Morgan's. So they've built this app, and they're actually working right now in 17 cities using 200 retailing partners, and they're getting, the app itself is getting over 30,000 downloads a month. And so from what I understand of the technology behind the app is that the app works directly with businesses that already have the ability and the license to sell alcohol, and engages them in an opportunity to deliver the product to a customer at their home.
Mhm.
So Drizzly takes care of the upload your license and for verification, and then they partner with, say, mom and pop convenience store, and that mom and pop convenience store gets the message, hey, this person just bought this, now go deliver this right directly to the consumer. Interestingly enough, the Drizzly app, from where I read it in this article, was that they don't take any money from the profit of actually selling the beer, and that they'll be using other services to be able to fund and make money in the app service. So whether or not it's in-app advertisement, or it is sponsorship from larger players to promote their product, or whatnot, that seems to be their business model.
Yeah, so you mentioned that it was 17 cities, and I just kind of want to read these out just so that if there's anybody out there in these cities, it'd be kind of cool to hear, if you've used this app. So it says it is available, like you said, kind of in that beta mode, in Austin, Texas, Baltimore, Maryland. It actually does say Boston, so we gotta poke around about that. Boulder, Colorado, Chicago, Illinois, Denver, Colorado, Indianapolis, Indiana, Los Angeles, California, Minneapolis, Minnesota, New York City, Providence, Rhode Island, Seattle, Washington, St. Louis, Missouri, and Washington, D.C. So no Portland, Oregon yet. I've noticed it because although almost all of those have been either past Beer Bloggers Conference locations or future. We have Boston, Chicago, Indianapolis, and Boulder on there. It's kind of funny. So yeah, if there's anybody out there that's giving this a shot, or if anybody in the Boston area wants to give us a try, we should definitely see what happens here. Now I'm on their actual website, which is drizzly.com/catalog, and it has both beer, wine, liquor, and also non-alcoholic beverages. So they have things like Coke and Sprite and tonic water and things, which I assume people are using as mixers. I'm seeing just from their catalog that they have a lot of the major macro brands. They've got Bud Light, they've got Mich Ultra, that type of thing. But they also have on there Lagunitas and Harpoon and Stone and Dogfish Head, as well as some from Cisco, Harpoon, Down East Cider, those kind of things. So it is definitely something that might be an interesting option if that model ends up working out.
I wonder if you can't order everything, like you couldn't order like maybe a specialty craft. Maybe that's how they're doing it. Like a brewery has to be involved and has to say, okay, I want to be able to sell these products, whatnot,
right.
Or if it's that you can, or if they'll sell anything that's available in that area. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a little. I can't tell because I told it my location, and it says basically it's not near me. But if you're within this Boston, how close are you to Boston? Like, are you within this Boston range, you think?
I'm about 45 minutes. I can't imagine.
You're probably outside of it.
I can't imagine. Yeah.
There's a map on here with like a red area that covers basically the west part of the Boston metro area. Just kind of highlighting it.
It'd actually be interesting of like doing like a trial run of like when we're staying down in a hotel. I mean, uploading the Drizzly app and get ready to go and just kind of like, okay, I would like to have a six pack and just see how that service happens from door to door, what that experience is. I still think that for our demographic in the craft world of the beer drinkers is not necessarily going to be the best service. I think some of the allure of what we do is kind of going to the store, talking to the store owner, kind of seeing what's new, seeing what they might not have on the shelf, kind of looking around, seeing something you might not have had before, or what they do have, and kind of sometimes using their inventory to be like, hey, you know what, I haven't had this beer in a while, and I've really liked the last time I have it. I'm gonna go after that again.
Yeah, and I think there's something to be said definitely about that interaction, especially if you don't know what you want. You know, if you're not drinking that same beer every night after work, you know, and you just kind of, like I go in and I'm like, I don't know what I want. I feel like something hoppy, and that's where that advice and that personal thing goes in. But if you're somebody like, you know, who likes to drink the same beer and you're out of beer, or maybe, you know, you've got a couple trusted brands that
I just drank a 30 pack and I would like to have another one. I want to drive and go get there.
Yeah, so I just, for giggles, I put in the address for the Boston hotel from the Beer Bloggers Conference, whatever the hotel was, and to make it think I was in Boston. And then I can order a 15-pack of cans of the Founders All Day IPA that I'm drinking right now for $18.74. I don't know what it was when I bought it here, but it says it's available. So it's pretty cool. So I could deliver beer to somebody in a hotel right now, but I'll wait until I'm actually staying. So
that's actually pretty cool. Hey, if you know like one of your family members down in a hotel,
oh yeah, that would be cool.
Go book an order and have them ship a 15 back to them.
Oh, I can get Red Bull delivered. Oh dear, now I'm dead. All right. Oh, that was grapefruit sculpin, 6-pack for $14 with the so that gives you a good kind of an idea of the price range, because obviously they have to add. But it says it's available, so if anybody in Boston really wants a Ballast Point Sculpin Habanero or grapefruit, go check that out.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Gray Road Ales in the chat room is agreeing, saying that that when he goes into a store, he really doesn't know what he wants, and kind of looking around is part of the process of figuring out what's, you know, what am I going to pick up. So unless it's something that you know you're guaranteed, like, hey, you know, I'm really in the mood for this, and I just like, you know, maybe you just want to have a bottle of Merlot.
Yeah.
And you just say, I want to have a bottle of wine, and send me some wine and bring me a pizza at the same time.
Yeah, and they do have, like I said, wine and liquor, so I can get, you know, a bottle of vodka, a bottle of wine, a bottle of some beer, and some cranberry juice, and just have a fun, wild night. This is kind of neat, though. Also, and I would imagine, too, that maybe in urban areas, you know, like Chicago, like Boston, it's not as easy to, you know, have a neighborhood beer store. You know, they might not be everywhere. It might be harder to find exactly what you want. And if you can go on here and say, oh, they have the Ballast Point Sculpin, why don't you just bring it to me? You know, it's kind of, it's saves
What if you don't have a car?
Around. Or, yeah, if you don't have a car in a lot of these urban areas. That's a really good point. Yeah. Don't have to take your beer purchases home on the tee.
No, I'll tell you this: it wouldn't work too well where I live. That's for sure. I think if I was ordering beer from the couch, people would say, "Why are you too lazy to go get the
beer?" Not a whole lot of it. Like, I enjoy the trip to the beer store probably more than I enjoyed the trip to a lot of other stores. So.
Exactly.
Gives you the reason to get off.
Shop, you get to pick out what you want, and there's really nothing wrong with that.
Right. Exactly.
Now, just moving on from there. I don't know if we actually talked about it in previous episodes or not, but a couple weeks ago there were two different beer-related tax reform acts.
Mm-hmm.
One was sort of promoted by the Brewers Association, which was the Small Brew Act, And then there was another one that was posted that was kind of went to legislation by the Beer Institute, which for the Brewers Association kind of supports what is classified as all of the craft breweries in the nation, where the Beer Institute actually actually covers all breweries of all sizes in the United States. So, and actually, I believe it actually includes into their organization beers brewed outside of the United States and the import companies that bring them into the country. So the challenge was that rather than having one legislation that everybody was going after, there was these two conflicting bills that kind of got presented within a couple days of each other, and I think it kind of ruffled the feathers of each organization, where the folks at the Brewers Association and the craft breweries were a little bit upset at the Beer Institute, and the Beer Institute folks were upset at the local craft brewery. I mean, not local craft, but the Brewers Association. So kind of got this and that. But the interesting thing, and I guess you would say it's not unexpected, but kind of if I was going to guess that this kind of resolution came from anywhere, I would guess that it would be started by people from politicians that were in Oregon, and it did. So Senator Ron Wyden, a Democrat from Oregon, actually introduced legislation this week that would promote job creation in both the craft brewing industry, cider wine, distilling industries throughout Oregon and the country. Mm-hmm. So he basically took the best of both worlds of the Small Brewers Act and the Fair Beer Act.
I like Fair Beer better.
And put them together to kind of create a new proposal. And honestly, it's actually turned out really well, because both sides of the both organizations that had presented bills previously have supported this one.
Cool.
And this
that type of thing happen in politics. That hardly ever happens, right?
Yeah. So this article that we kind of shared and will have available on the website doesn't go too far into the detail, but a lot of what it is was based on reducing the tax structure, but then making it tiered related to the amount of barrels that you produce. So based on the amount, like, so the smaller breweries have a lower tax rate, and then once you get to a certain point, that you pay the higher tax rate, which is still lower than what it is now.
Yeah, and it did include a couple things too about some of the the reporting and the accounting rules. You know, if you're a small enough brewery and whatnot, that you don't have to do this crazy amount of reporting, because that's also really hard to keep up with as a small business. Kind of being held to the same exact standard as the big guys.
Right. So it's kind of, I brought this up today just because to kind of throw this out here and letting everyone know that there is discussion on that, and kind of making it more financially able to keep the craft beer industry sustainable in the future. Obviously, if there's a lot more breweries and a lot more breweries are producing beer and they're paying taxes on those beer, that although if the tax price per barrel comes down, but there's more breweries that can be able to sustain the business, that we're going to be actually increasing our tax money based on that. So it puts a little money back into the brewers' pockets to be able to make sure that they can sustain and grow their businesses, whether or not with equipment or personnel to be able to do so, which I think is the right thing where the industry needs to be going to.
Yeah. And I think what's nice is that it also I'm hearing a little bit of an echo. What's nice is that it also just acknowledges that different rules, would affect different size breweries, disproportionately. And I think that that's a big deal to acknowledge, that it's not all just gigantic versus tiny, that there's a gradient in between. And that, so if legislators can keep that kind of mentality when they're doing future legislations and future rules like this, I think that's a step in a positive direction. So it's not a one size fits all kind of thing. It's being a little bit more sensitive to how that works.
Right. So obviously, if you're producing a lot of beer versus someone that's producing a small number of beer, that the tax ratio is going to have it's going to be a big disparity between one business versus another. And so it's kind of like saying, how can I pay as much as the big guys, or how can they not pay as more than me because they're producing exponentially much more?
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So I think, kind of not really in that realm, kind of switching gears a little bit. This is actually coming up on a holiday. We're heading around the corner to Father's Day, and you recently wrote a great post about kind of gifts that a father might enjoy in the beer realm. And I actually, some of these I might be stealing, just so you know, because my dad's birthday actually falls just a couple days after Father's Day, so I might double up on this list a little bit. But and a couple of things, what I liked about your list, and we'll go over some of the stuff in there, is that it doesn't always have to be physically beer. There's a lot of things that, if your dad's into craft beer, there are things that are kind of parallel to it. There's tours and books and things that are related but not physically beer. You didn't just show up on Father's Day with a six-pack. You got, some things that will help them explore beer a little bit more. So I don't know if you would talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so sort of what inspired, and thanks, Carla, was that I was going through my emails, and for the past 2 or 3 weeks, it's kind of like gifts for Father's Day, gifts for Father's Day, gifts for Father's Day.
Yeah.
And I was reading them from all these different breweries, and I was like, I don't typically write the cliche, hey, it's this holiday is coming up. Here's the best beers to pair for Father's Day. That would have been funny. Like, because trying to predict what my dad's going to eat on Father's Day and pair beers with it would be just like hilarious. But instead, I was looking through the emails, and the first thing that actually caught my eye is the first thing that I put in the article, which was a pair of a barbecue grill set from Dogfish Head, and it's got the Dogfish Head logo actually embossed into the grill set and the tongs. And I was like, that's pretty sharp. And if you go to someone's house and you don't know if they like craft beer, you haven't looked in their cooler yet, but you see them on the grill with a Dogfish Head barbecue grill set, like, okay, I know I'm going to be able to open up that cooler and find some great beer in the cooler.
It's just, it's also just fundamentally, it's a really cool logo. It's a shark. You know what I mean? So, it's kind of awesome in its own right. But yeah, you're right. It does definitely send a signal, like, there will be good beer with the burgers that I'm flipping with this.
Right. Exactly. The person's committed.
Right. Absolutely.
So then number 2 on the list, because I kind of picked 5 different topics. It's not 5 different items, but 5 different topics, is that as you know, and we've kind of, our host of the show, and along with other members of the podcast, are into the book writing scene, where you and I are not yet.
Yeah.
Yet, but who knows?
Yeah.
I kind of picked out some books that have come out in the past couple of years that are either specific to New England and or craft beer related. So Beer Lovers New England, New Hampshire beer, brewing from sea to summit, Rhode Island beer, Ocean State history on tap, Boston beer, history of brewing in the hub, Massachusetts breweries, Great Northeast Brewing Tour, Crafty Bastards, brewing beer in New England from Mayflower to modern day.
I haven't read that one yet. Have you read that?
You know what? One of my friends had it, and I read probably like a quarter of it when I was at his house.
Cool. I'll have to check it out, because that's of your list. Like, that's one of the only ones I haven't actually gotten my hands on. Sorry, continue.
And then there's Maine beer, brewing in Vacation Land.
Yeah.
Forgotten drinks of colonial New England, from flips and rattleskulls to switchel and spruce beer.
Nice, very nice.
And then sort of rounding out the list, which I thought would be perfect, would be the American Craft Beer Cookbook.
Yeah,
155 recipes from your favorite breweries in brew pubs.
that one's a really good one. Just
It is.
it has he basically it's author John Hall went to all these brew pubs across the U.S. and basically took their, asked them for their best, recipes. So there's things like chili and also all sorts of great things that are kind of tried and true, but they were meant to be served with beer. So they're really quite awesome. I want to add one to your list.
Okay, what did I forget?
The Handbook of Porters and Stouts by Christie. Because especially, a lot of dads I know are into the dark beer, into the Guinness, that kind of thing. This has like a crazy amount of reviews of all the different dark beers out there that are really important. A couple different bloggers that we know contributed to it, and it's just really fun to introduce them beyond the world of Guinness. What else is out there? So it's
awesome.
It's kind of like a beefy, almost like a reference guide to porters and stouts, but it's pretty fun to go through and find what's in here. I mean, there's everything from Captain Lawrence to I just had New Glarus a minute ago. Yell du Seal. All kinds of stuff. So this one's a cool one. I happen to be right next to my beer library.
Once you have it, yeah. Well, interesting enough, all the books that I mentioned, you can buy on Amazon.com.
Sweet, very cool.
So I'm not saying don't go to your local bookstore. Go to your local bookstore and look in the beer section.
Yep.
If they don't have the books at the local bookstore, ask your local bookstore to bring them in.
Absolutely.
If at that point they can't, go to Amazon, pick up a book, support your local writer. It's funny. So, two of the books are written by Norman, by The Real Beer Nut. Two of the books are written by John Hall.
Yep.
And then you got our own Brian Aldrich and Mike Meredith.
Yep.
And then Ashley and Christy from the Rhode Island book.
Yep. And then Josh Christie wrote that and contributed to this too. So so we got a lot of peeps out there that are obviously knowledgeable beer people, writing cool stuff. So I'm not an author yet, but maybe someday.
Maybe you and I will be co-authors on a book.
Yeah, that'd be fun. That'd be cool. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
So that we can always be the ones holding up our book, be like, oh.
Whoa, look at this. Yeah. We'll have a podcast of only hosts who's ever written a book. If you haven't written a book, you can't be a host. It's a new requirement.
There you go. That works.
Not jealous. Not jealous.
Not jealous at all. No.
Exactly. The next part was I recommended, and this is for beer lovers of all types, whether or not you're just got into craft beer recently, the past couple of years, or you've been a craft beer drinker for a long time, and especially if you're not from the area. We have some great local brewery beer bus tour companies that are kicking ass and taking names.
It's just such a great thing to be, because a lot of people ask me, hey, I'm only in town for a day or for a weekend, where should I go? And, I can rattle off a list of places, but then you got to figure out all the logistics of going in between things and what time things are open and that whole thing. This is literally doing all of the work for you. So you've got, these great companies that, have made relationships basically with the breweries and the brew pubs and whatever that they visit, and can give you, lots of different tours. I can speak for the two that are in Maine. They have a variety of different tours, so it's not like the same one every time. They do some that's, swoop southward from Portland, some that go up north. And actually, Bangor just announced that they're going to add one to theirs. So if you're interested in some of the Bangor breweries that I talked about, I don't know the name of the company off the top of my head, I'm sorry, but I'll throw it in the show links. But the owner of Nocturnum actually started that beer bus company. So we're, so if you're up in Maine, there's a couple of choices. If you're, you've got the Granite State Growler Tours for New Hampshire. They're fantastic folks. And they're just, like you said, they're for everybody in that beer spectrum. They're for people who are super passionate to people who are really new, and they make it fun and they make it really easy to explore beer and to not drive, which is a big deal. We don't talk about that a lot, but it's, if you go to 4 breweries in a day, you really don't want to be driving home after that 4th one. It's not a good idea. So to, leave the driving to them and to, get some passionate tour guides telling you kind of insider stuff about the local beer scene is awesome. And, and it doesn't have to be, New England. If you're other places, there's probably businesses like this, sprouting up near you. So please, do a little research, because it's really fun. And it's fun to do with a group of people, if it's somebody's birthday, Father's Day, family, whatever,
And one of the key things too about it is that you really do get the VIP tour.
Oh, totally.
Now, you start off by mentioning is that someone ask you and you could give them a list of, okay, here are the breweries I recommend going, and here are some of the people that you might meet there. When you go on the bus, they'll be like, that's the owner, that's the brewer, that's who this is.
And go underneath this rope and come over here with us into the back part.
Exactly. and if they were on that day testing some special beer that was barrel aged, that they're gonna be like, hey, for your tour, I mean, I'm not saying this happens all the time, but they can just, the tour guide can go over and say, hey, is anything special going on? Anything that I should let our guests know that the everyday customer that walks in at the same time might not be aware of? And so that's really an added value that could be taken for granted. Yeah, it's very easy that you can look at their list of where they're going. You can pop in your car and try to go to all those places. They've all these companies that are listed here, including the Maine Beer Tours, the Maine Brew Bus. They've set up specific tour times. They're not using the time that's on the website that they're open between this hour and this hour. They've made agreements with the breweries on the specific days and say, hey, you know what, I'm going to bring in X number of people between this time, between certain hours, and you get a special tour that you may not get when you show up during the regular tasting hours.
Absolutely.
which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so and they're not super expensive, especially considering the transportation angle of it. Like, a typical tour is, I think, the ones I've seen are between $50 and $75 depending. But honestly, for an entire day and for beer, and usually they feed you in the middle of it too. You'll have lunch included in that. I think it's well worth the expertise, the VIP, ness, and just the ability to not have to worry about doing this. And it's just a really fun thing to do. So. I'm a big fan. I've been on both of the beer buses in Maine. Not the third one up in Bangor yet, because it just started up, and they're both awesome. And they do a great job. And they hire really enthusiastic people who love beer just as much as we all do. So
when you go on the New Hampshire bus, you get a tour of New Hampshire brewing,
which is awesome.
Beer history in New Hampshire, which you don't get that just driving your own car.
No, and you would never know. I mean, they point at buildings, and you're like, "Really? That used to be the Frank Jones? That's cool." Like you've got the knowledge, right at you. So you don't leave if you haven't learned anything by the time you get off the bus. You've done something seriously wrong.
Exactly.
I'm a big fan.
So next, fourth item I actually put on here was sort of, it's an easy gift, but it's a gift that keeps on giving. American Homebrewers Association membership card. Join over 44,000 other enthusiasts in the American Homebrewers Association, which gives you a bunch of different things. It gives you, there's a homebrewing magazine that comes out called Zimmergy. Yep. There are discounts at homebrew clubs. There are discounts at breweries. It does allow you to purchase members-only tickets to the Great American Beer Festival, GABF, along with other events that come up during the year. And you're really promoting an organization that supports the art of brewing across the nation, from where craft beer came from. Craft beer was generated from avid homebrewers. Yep. So I thought that it was a great gift that every father would love. Was a membership into that. Into the American Homebrewers Association, and maybe to inspire your father to brew more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just by that, and join a homebrewing club.
Yeah, and I think too that Father's Day is also just about appreciating the relationship you may have with your dad. So if you want to go and encourage him to learn a bit more about brewing so that you guys can brew together, that's awesome. Those types of opportunities. I love things like that where you're both learning something. Like I tell people about dating. Where's a good place to bring your first date? Well, not a movie, because you don't get to say anything. You want to do something where you're both unfamiliar and you're both learning, and it ends up being a cool experience. So same thing, you know, with hanging out with your dad. If they're into beer and, you know, want to learn how to brew, this is a great resource to kind of start looking into that kind of world, and it's really fun. You know, you get to see what you made after a couple weeks. It's pretty fun.
Now, the last gift of 5 for 5 on here was kind of, I came up with, it came at me and I go, this is the gift that people may not have ever bought for their dad, that their dad may not have bought for themselves. But if your dad is very into beer, very into home brewing, very into understanding of wanting to learn more, expanding the palate, I thought one of the best gifts that no one would ever think about would be a Cicerone off-flavor training kit, where they give you different ingredients to be able to change a test beer to be able to give off flavors, so that you can train your palate to detect diacetyl, to be able to detect DMS, infection, light struck, trans 2 non-enol, along with acetaldehyde.
Yep,
Yeah, I butchered that.
Yeah, aldehyde. I'm sorry, it's acetaldehyde.
Acetaldehyde. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. No, it's fine. The only thing I'll say about this is that this is incredibly useful. But if you've ever taken like a movie class and then like suddenly you can't stop seeing like that particular type of shot you learned about, if you do this off flavor tasting thing, you will never ever ever be able to ignore diacetyl in a beer ever again. And
so it's like taking a class on film noir.
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden, like, watch movies and be like, "No, that's exactly you're doing it wrong."
Right, exactly. So be forewarned. You can't untaste. You know, the internet meme is can't unsee. You can't untaste. So it's awesome, and it's also awesome. Like if the one you're just talking about before, if your dad's in a homebrew club, you know, they can kind of pitch in this together. They actually sell these kits in kind of increments for multiple people. So if you wanted to, you know, have a day where your whole homebrew club, you know, all got together and tried these, you know, it's kind of a educational thing for everybody. That's another way to play it. But be forewarned, you can't untaste. Once you learn
it's
helpful.
And you detect it in other beers that you try, you are going to be very unhappy, and you're gonna learn that you will want to dump your beer rather than drink it.
Yeah. But honestly, you know, as much as we're joking about that, you know, if you want to make better beer, you really need to know what the flaws are and how to identify them. So it is a really important skill to learn. So
if your dad is a brewer or wants to open a brewery or is a home brewer or really likes beer, this is something that when you give him, he'll look at it and be like, "What is this?" And then he'll start using it and be like, "Wow, this is probably the best gift that I've ever received."
Yeah, absolutely. Helps you ID stuff. Did you say, I saw in your chat that there's a couple of suggestions in the chat room for more?
Yeah, we have a chat room recommendation for Father's Day, and it may be a little bit self-promoting or shameless plug, but we have no problem with that. Yeah. What do you think about old-time baseball?
I like baseball.
What do you think about beer?
Beer's good. Beer
and a barbecue. So it's Spencer Pierce Little Farm, nice. Old-time baseball. On Father's Day, there will be History, Art, Barbecue, and Ipswich Ale. 4 games will be played on the day, beginning at 10 o'clock, going until 3:30, featuring the Newburyport Clam Diggers, Portsmouth Rockinghams, Lynn Live Oaks against Lowell Baseball Club.
That's so cute.
And so I guess those teams must be playing a round robin, playing each other for 4 games.
That's fun.
Yeah, there'll be a little bit there'll be some lunch featuring Tennessee barbecue.
Yep, nice.
And Ipswich Ale. So it's old school baseball where they didn't have gloves.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Like Field of Dreams, old school.
Exactly.
Nice.
Exactly. And if you're familiar with the farm, it's very similar to Field of Dreams although it's not the right season right now, it's usually surrounded by cornfields.
Too early for me, right?
Yeah. So it's perfect in that aspect.
I like it when history and fun things intersect like that. That's really cool. It's pretty unique. Let's see. Anything else from the chat too, as suggestions for Father's Day?
Yeah, let me just check for 1 second if there's anything else that's being suggested. So there's 2 double headers for the baseball, just to clarify. 2 double headers, and I guess everyone in the chat right now would like to have their own off-flavored kit.
Yeah, nice.
So tell your children, send them the link. Yep. Cicerone, Ray Daniels, it's a great kit. Love it. That's all. So just moving on, Carla. I believe that
okay. So some breaking news for you guys. I'm going to read the headline out. It is the FDA finds thousands of Coors Light beers laced with cocaine nationwide, and production is going to stop for 30 full days while the FDA investigates. Scary, but not true. So I have seen now on my Facebook feed over the past couple days this article being passed around. It sounds legit. They mentioned the FDA and how they're going to investigate it. It's, you know, and the FDA became suspicious of Coors Light being laced with a certain drug after thousands reported feeling weird, high, and even sick after drinking Coors Light. Believe me, if this were actually true, this would be on like the legit news. So no, Coors Light may still be gross, but it's definitely not laced with cocaine. So check out those articles for Snopes.com, that, you know, fact-checking thing, and do me a favor and stop spreading that article. Because it made me stop for a second, and I went, "Are you kidding?" And then I read it, and I thought, well, it's not on The Onion, so I thought it was one of those ones that was satire and people were mistaken. And it turns out it's just one of those ones that's supposed to look real and totally.
Like, yeah, someone started just like a rumor, and it's kind of spread. It spread on the interwebs, and the someone found the end of the internet and was like, this article would fit.
Yeah, cocaine in the Coors Light. That's why, you know. That's why I can't stop at a 36 rack. I got to keep going. Yeah, no, I can't. I just no. But if you are concerned about potential cocaine in your Coors Light, you could always switch to a craft beer. Just saying. No,
just saying.
No cocaine in that.
Just saying. Yeah. Now, just wrapping it up, and wait a sec. Let's see if there's is there anything from the chat. Give them a second they'll catch up with us. But anything from the chat, and Carla, do you have any beer-related activities coming up this weekend?
Yeah, and this is like the weekend of a million beer things. So I'm just going to mention 2 things. One of which I'm going to. Well, all right, I'll mention 2 things. So there's the beer fest that I raved about last year, that was in its first year, was called the Great Falls Brew Fest in Lewiston, Maine.
Is that one that we did wiffle ball?
No, actually, although I'm doing that again too. That'll be in August, though.
Okay. Come on, we need to get the invite for the wiffle ball game.
Oh, actually, we need people on the team. So if you want to be on the team, come up to Bangor.
Do it.
It's in Bangor, though, so it's way flip up there. But we should definitely talk to me afterwards.
It's not that far for me.
Okay. We are, Chad, if my co-star could talk, always puts together a team, and we are looking for new teammates, and registration just started being open. So that goes out to our chat drinkers too. If you feel like coming up to Bangor playing some wiffle ball for charity, it benefits the Make-A-Wish Foundation for Maine, which is pretty awesome. Basically, they raise, usually every year, they raise enough money to completely fulfill one Make-A-Wish wish, which is really awesome to do that for kids in Maine. So that's actually in August. I think it's August 15th, but don't hold me to that date. I will double check. But I do want to mention this weekend is the Great Falls Brewfest in Lewiston, Maine. Baxter Brewing Company put this on for the first time last year, and it was awesome. They did a really nice job of organizing it. They picked, they just did it really well. It's big, spread out. They have a beer tent in one section. They have live music on the other section. They've got food trucks way out the other direction. So you basically just kind of hang out. There's plenty of room, great breweries. They give you free bottled water so that you can, not get dehydrated. It's just an awesome fest. So I volunteered again this year, so I'm going to be, kind of being a runner, helping get set up. But if you haven't been and you're looking for like one of those like festivals where you leave and you're like, that was awesome, that was really cool, this is my pick for, the year as far as that goes. Simultaneously, up in Bangor, they're doing the Tappan Summerfest. So it's kind of funny. I looked at the breweries that are going to each, and in Maine, it's literally divided. There's very little overlap. So if one of your favorite breweries is going to one of these this weekend, which I thought was kind of interesting.
So either direction you go, you're going the right path.
Right. There's good breweries both ways. So whatever you're closer to or whatever, and they're exactly the same price. So. Just check both of those fests out. They're both outdoors. It's supposed to hopefully not rain. It might be a little cloudy, but we'll see how the weather plays out. And then the only other thing I wanted to mention is that one of the guests we've had on the show, Henniker Brewing Company, is coming to Maine. And tomorrow I'm going to an event at the Great Lost Bear to kind of celebrate the arrival of Henniker Brewing Company beer in Maine. So awesome. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. And whenever they do like a showcase kind of thing, the beers are cheap, and they do kind of like a mini tap takeover, so that'll be fun. Looking forward to going and checking that out. And also just having more Henniker beer available in Maine is cool.
So for New Hampshire folks, there are 2 brew fests this weekend.
Wow.
One in Newport, which Newport's sort of close to Lake Sunapee. So there's a Newport Brew Fest on Saturday. At the same time, there is a brew fest near Laconia at Steel Hill Resorts called Brew with a View.
Huh.
I guess it's a resort up there in the Lakes region. That's the both. So Newport's Brewfest is actually their second annual. They did it last year, but
cool.
Brew with a View is the first time for this year. So those are 2 Brewfests to check out in New Hampshire. In Maine, you may have forgotten that I believe it's Saturday is the 6th dinner release.
Oh, yes. I have forgotten that because I don't stand in line for beer anymore. But
yeah, I put it on my list. I don't stand. Yeah, well, it depends. Yeah. I stood in line for Maud the Lesser.
Okay, well, yeah, but that was kind of
when it's appropriate. When it's appropriate, it was a tribute to Todd. So when it's appropriate. So there is that going on in Maine, but also which is near and dear to my heart is the Beer and Bacon Festival.
Oh, is that this?
And if you've been tracking it, the venue's changed a bunch of times over the last year. Do you know where this year's venue is?
No, where?
You take a walk. Where is your ultimate place that you would like to have a brewfest in Boston?
That castle thing, whatever that is.
What?
No? The castle thing, whatever that.
No, not at the castle. They do a brewfest. There's 4 brewfests a year at the castle.
Okay, so all right. So then the other big one that is the Seaport Trade Fest, where they do ACB.
Yeah, where would you want to have?
Oh, where would I want to have it?
Where would you want to have one?
In the summer, I would love to do it on like the half shell over by the waterfront where they do the concerts. That would be cool.
That'd be a great spot. Think about even better than that.
I know where. Fenway.
It's at Fenway.
That's so cool.
First ever Brewfest at Fenway is on Saturday.
That is
Beer and Bacon Festival. They only released the tickets at least about a month ago, so 30 days ago, and they sold out in hours.
Dang.
And the Beer Fest is on the concourse at Fenway.
Wow, that's fun. Is that the first time they've ever done a fest on
Beer Fest? First time. I mean, they've done big concerts.
Yeah, but not like a beer fest. That's really cool.
No, so to be able to book that's got to be phenomenal. Now, I mean, maybe this beer fest is actually gonna, and so if you haven't noticed, wearing my Red Sox jersey for tonight's show, in honor of the beer fest being at Fenway, hoping that maybe this will help turn around the season.
Yeah, there you go.
Been very difficult.
That's the magic ingredient, bacon. Bacon is all we all need.
Exactly.
Bring it back.
Throw a little bacon. Maybe they need to reenact Norm's video and throw some bacon around the clubhouse. And just have Norm stand there watching it as it happens. That would be classic. But the other thing to take note, and do you know that Sunday is the solstice?
Yes.
So, I mean, I get some emails from Garden Ale House. They have a special solstice breakfast brunch.
That's cool.
Where their brunches are phenomenal. Anyways, but they are especially doing a feature around that, and I'm sure that there'll be a bunch of other breweries that will be doing features around the solstice. So
that is really cool. It's a very busy weekend. I forgot. Actually, Friday is my birthday, and I will be
like
old.
This week, Friday.
This week, Friday. So Friday's my birthday.
Woo! Happy birthday! I forgot.
Yeah. But on Friday, Oxbow. So Oxbow Brewing Company has this tasting room down in Portland now, and they're doing an event called the Oxbow Prom. And they're actually having people like dress up in prom dresses and drink like fruity, funky beer. So I'm going to spend my birthday in my prom dress drinking crazy good Oxbow beer. So I'm pretty.
You are doing that on Friday?
Yeah, I'm doing that on Friday, and I'm gonna. So
pictures or it didn't happen.
But I'm kind of lucky that I actually still fit into my prom dress. I don't know what that says about me, what size I was when I was in high school, but I'm pretty excited that I still fit. So.
You did get married last year, right? Didn't you have a big program to be able to get into whatever dress that you wanted that was the right dress for the wedding and the pictures, you're still in that program probably?
Yeah, definitely. But I'm kind of excited just to have an excuse to dress up. It's fun for me. So I don't get a lot of opportunities. Usually I'm in, beer shirts and jeans. So that'll be fun. I'm looking forward to that. I'm
expecting pictures.
Oh, there will definitely be pictures. I'm getting Ben Moore to come as well, so I'm sure he'll be documenting the ever living Jesus out of it. So look for me in makeup and a dress on Friday.
You may not recognize you. If someone comes up to you and doesn't know that you're Carla, is there like a code word that they should say?
Let's see. What should they say? You know what? They should just come up to me and say, I don't know, something. Just say something about that stupid Super Bowl ad, and then you'll know that's me. But I'm going to be wearing different glasses too, so these usually give me away. So it's going to be a little.
It'll be incognito.
Incognito, totally different. See, without the glasses, I look totally different. So. But anyway, if anybody else feels like dressing up, it's on Friday night, and there's more details on Oxbow's website and their Facebook. So check it out.
Great, awesome. And so if anyone's out and about this weekend and sees us, come by, say hello, and if you want to be a guest host on the show, you can join Carla and I at any point.
Absolutely. Yeah. And also, if there's any guests that you really want to see us go after, if there's a brewer that you really like, or somebody in the news that you want us to go ask, we are welcome for suggestions for that too. In July, we will be having Sean, who is the head of the Maine Brewers Guild, on. We'll be talking a little bit more about what the guild does and what he does kind of on a daily basis. It's a little bit different, so it'll be happening in July. But we are always willing to have more people. So.
Perfect. And I'd like to give a last-minute shout-out to our chat room guys, Patrick, Gray Road Ales, and Hoppy Mike.
Woo!
We appreciate that you joined us tonight, and thank you for that.
Absolutely. Thanks.
And as every show, we end with a cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.